And before I start, just like every time, I would maybe wait for a couple of people. I mean, obviously, I'll wait for more people to join, and I'll wait for at least a couple of people to tell me if my audio and video are proper. So, if anyone could just tell me if my audio and video are proper, and if they can hear me well, and if they can see me well, and I will start taking the question from everyone. So, anyone, if I can just have 1 second. Okay, I see there are already a couple of questions from different people, but before, just like I said, before I want to get started, before I get started with taking the questions, uh, uh, yep, I see different comments, but if anyone can just tell me if my audio and video are proper. Okay, thank you, Varun. So everyone, just give a heads up, say hello to Varun, uh, who is basically moderating the chat today. And just like you know, my name is Prithvi, and I do this live stream every single week on Friday evening at 8 o'clock. And we discuss startups and entrepreneurship. I try to answer all the queries that you people have from the limited amount of experience that I have. And well, I just try to make it as interactive as possible, as personal as possible, and um, yep, that's it. So before I start, I just want to, a couple of things that just like every time, I just want to make sure. Please refrain from chatting in the comment box. Just ask your question, and it might take me a while to come to your question. It might take me a while to actually answer what you have asked. So please don't think that I'm ignoring your question. If anything is related to startups and entrepreneurship, I'll for sure answer that. But it might just take me some time to answer, to come to your question. So please just wait for me to, get to that, and I will certainly answer if it is something relevant to startups and entrepreneurship. And also, just like I keep saying every single time, keep it as specific as possible. Try to give as much details as you can, and that will kind of motivate me to answer that, and that will also have more value for you. So, yep, I think we're good. We have around 20 people on 20 people live right now, so I will just start taking questions. So the first question today is from Rohit, and Rohit is asking, when should we register a startup legally in India, after we receive seed funding or before that? So Rohit, I think yeah, whenever you have the first transaction, whenever you have the first finances, so those finances could either be your seed funding, those finances could either be your transactions, if you have already started making transactions, if you have already started selling your product or service. So I think that is the first time. Or even, let's say you have a website and you have started to sign up users who could, be your potential paid users to begin with. Because any user, when he or she signs up on your website, they basically have a terms and condition that they need to agree to. And in that terms and conditions, that is basically an agreement between your user as well as your company. So that agreement needs to be executed by your company, by a legal entity. So the moment you start getting users signing up on your platform, I think that's the perfect time for you to register a startup. Don't wait till the seed funding. I think, before you actually raise a funding, until and unless you have someone who is ready to invest on your idea, before you receive seed funding, there is a lot of work to be done. So I think you don't really need to wait till the seed funding is done. And I hope that answers your question, Rohit. So going for the next one, what do you think will be the scene of semiconductor fabrication is in coming decade, or like till 2030? So when I, just like I keep saying, India is finally taking manufacturing seriously. Like after seeing the dominance of China in the last few years, and obviously after seeing the journey of Chinese manufacturing industry, or not even Chinese, there are like really good industries in Vietnam. There are really good industries in Philippines. There are actually a lot of different Asian countries, and India was really not the market to manufacture. Even since the time that these countries actually started taking the initiatives of manufacturing in 1960s and 70s, and India finally started opening its economy in 1991, 1992. So I think now is finally the time that India is looking at those. India is looking at those initiatives, or those basically opportunities to start manufacturing. So I think semiconductors is I'm sure it is one of the biggest industry today. But now that with our dependency on the electronic devices increasing more and more every single day we're getting more and more devices. I think coming in the coming years and in the coming decade, semiconductor industry in India is certainly going to be one of the biggest, just like the toys industry, like the Indian government is finally focusing on. So I think it's just about time that Indian government starts, giving some sort of incentives, giving some sort of encouragement to the people who basically want to start these semiconductor manufacturing or fabrication industries. Uh, Shwam Sri Panda, I will find the knowledge you are giving related to startups and business are really awesome. Thank you very much. Please make a video on Mindtree and give me a clarification how service-based companies work. So, Shwam, I think I cannot really give you uh, a clarification right now on how service-based companies work, but that will certainly make us a good video. I mean, I can certainly make a different video on the Startup 101 series that I once started, and I couldn't really make a lot more videos in that. But now we are finally starting, finally thinking to start that again. But I think that will be a good topic for us to do in that Startup 101 series. So please wait and watch. I mean, thank you very much for that idea, and thank you very much for your work. And Mindtree, certainly that is an amazing story. That is an amazing company and brand to come out of India. And I mean, obviously, just like I said, we try to do a lot more of kind of content that we can, but the resources that we have right now are limited. So it's I don't really know right now that how much time it might take for us to make that Mindtree video, but you will certainly see that on our channel. Bounce startup is almost gone. Ram, I won't say Bounce is almost gone because I think a few weeks ago I did read some news about it and they said that they're almost at 70% of the number of transactions, number of bookings that they had pre-COVID. So I don't know what is your basis to say Bounce startup. Maybe I haven't really been updated with Bounce in the last few weeks, but I remember there was a news about Bounce. I think there was a news about Bounce introducing more and more electric bikes in their fleet. So I don't know, what is your basis for that news or, for that point, but I'm certain Bounce because I know those people, I know the founders. Vivekanand is one of those, and I'm pretty sure those people will not let it go just like that. Junior J is asking, is it a best situation for starting to get an incubator for its early stage idea? Junior J, actually, so you, just like I keep saying, it's your decision to take. That's your startup. And basically, to get into an incubation, all you need to do is, if you're a first-time entrepreneur, for sure, go into an incubation. If you think you can basically use some of the connections that incubation, that incubation center might give you, go for it. But if you think you already know what you are doing, if you think you already have the kind of connections, you already have the kind of capital, and you basically have the resources that will make your startup successful, then I think it's better to hustle and it's better to kind of figure things on your way. Incubation might just make things a little bit things. Basically, it might just give you an overview of the startup world if you are a first time entrepreneur. So again, it depends on who you are and what your startup is and how much help do you really need to take off to begin with. Yuvraj, I'm a student web developer. What is the best place to find startups who recently got funding to find jobs in the startup? Yuvraj, I think Angel.co is still remains one of the undisputed platforms where you could find startups who are looking for people. Apart from that, I'm sure these startups have already started to look for these companies like Quicker Jobs and Naukris, but Angel.co or the websites of those particular startups are the best places for you to figure out which startup is hiring right now. I hope that alcohol startup, Gaurav, great idea. Maybe just go for it. Uh, Kavishraj, what am I doing other than backstage with millionaires? Source of income. Kavishraj, what makes you think backstage with millionaires cannot be my source of income? So what would be good idea? Vinayak is asking, would it be a good idea to go for it after 5 years? If you can comment on that. Vinayak, if you're asking about the semiconductor fabrication, certainly it will be. Just like I said, I mean, I cannot really comment on how the semiconductor industry will be in 5 years because everything is very rapidly changing these days. But I'm pretty sure, the industry will be much more bigger and, much faster growing than it is today. Gabron. Gaboron, okay, whatever the name is. I'm launching my B2B e-commerce platform. I'm buying API from JungleWorks. Are they a legitimate company to work with? Gaboron. Okay, so GM. I'll just call you GM. So GM, I don't really know what is JungleWorks. I have not had any history of working with them, or I haven't really had any history of knowing about them. So I might not really be able to give you the answer that you're seeking right now, but maybe I can just do that a little bit of research about you. But just like I said, maybe just go online, do a little bit of research about their own clients, about people who have worked with them, or people who have basically just ask for references. If you are just asking, if you're working directly with that company, just ask for references, verify those references on your own, and you will have your answer. Okay, Alpha Digan. I got into crypto back in 2017 and I'm a millionaire right now. I'm with two of my friends who want to start India's first crypto-based hedge fund. You think it's a good idea or should I wait? So Alpha, I don't really know, about the hedge fund scene in India because I haven't really, I don't have an idea about it. And I think someone brought it up last week with the live with Ankur Variko. Indian market might not really be the best suited market for crypto based hedge funds, because if you're only talking about Indian startups, if you're only talking about Indian people, the government of India and RBI are actually talking about banning all the cryptocurrencies apart from the digital cryptocurrency that RBI is going to launch. So I don't know how much of that, how much of impact that will have on your operations. But if you think even after that, you can just go ahead, because it might take a few weeks, it might take a few months, it might take a couple of years, but the government is in full mood to ban all the other cryptocurrencies. So if you think, that can still make you go ahead, go for it. Um, Ayush, toys is not a big industry. I'm sure you're wrong, Ayush, because uh, toys is one of those industries that Indian government is finally looking to tap, and I'm pretty sure because the toys industry in China is very big. I'm fairly sure the toys manufacturing industry in India is not that big, but if you can really look at the worldwide toys industry. I'm sure there was one company, UK based company that was bought by Reliance, Mukesh Ambani, a couple of years ago, and that is the biggest toys company in the world. Hamleys, I mean, whichever it is. So that was a big toys company which was bought by Reliance, and I don't know what is your benchmark again to say that toys is not a big industry, but as per as I know, it's one of the biggest industries in the world right now. How to find an angel investor for a startup? Shakti, I think before finding an angel investor for a startup, the thing that you really need to take care about is how to build a product, worth enough for those angel investors to reach out to you, or for any of other investors to reach out to you and find you. Just build that traction, build that product, and I think that is the first thing that you really need to be worried about. If you have a product worth investing, then I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be answering, you wouldn't be asking this question to me. Uh, Sahil, I see a lot of startups giving ESOPs to their employees. Are the employees allowed to sell this stock to third party by converting ESOPs to stocks? So Sahil, I think most of these things are written in the agreement that these employees have with the startups. A lot of time there is a vesting period. There is a time that only after this time, these people can basically just buy. These employees can sell their stocks. And also even apart from that, there are a lot of companies which basically require you to sell it only to the founders or only to the investors who are investing in that. So I think there are clauses in that agreement when you are given these ESOPs, that who are the people that you can sell it to, what are the situations or conditions in which you can sell it to, and when you can sell these ESOPs to. So I think there are a lot of these rules and regulations which kind of differ from company to company. So it's not that I can just give you a generalized answer, because more than anything which is there in general domain, the thing which governs all these ESOPs is the clause and is basically the rules and regulations set by that particular company. So I hope that answers your question, Sai. Anish, what do you do if your competitor has deep pockets? Anish, if they can have deep pockets, all you have to do is you can have a basically you can have a better product than them. Again, like, this is a very generalized question. I can just speak for hours and days about it. Uh, Lucas, hey bro, is Caleb in India or he works from US? Lucas Caleb is in India, and why would he work from US? Like, he's a Canadian, he's from Canada, he's not from US. Others, can I replicate others' business model which is not available in my location? You can certainly do that. I mean, there are a lot of Indian startups who have done exact things which other startups were doing in European countries or the US. So yes, you can certainly replicate that. But just like I said, it is not only about replication. You need sort of execution, because someone would have already done that if it was possible, because if someone can do that in other location. So I think for every single location, for every single demographic, for every single user base, there needs to be different kinds of execution. So okay, I see there are people who have already started talking, so I will not go there. Ashwin is asking how to develop consistency. Ashwin, what do you mean about how to develop consistency for what? Like for yourself, for your startup, for your studies, for what? How to invest in Indian companies, SYL22 ROCHE. I don't know how to say your name, but how to invest in an Indian company? Well, if you're talking about public companies, you can simply just all you have to do is you have to have a Demat account, and you can just invest in them. If you're talking about private companies, if you're talking about startups, I think you have to reach out to these founders and ask them if they are raising funds, if they basically need funds. Ashwin, where can I find like-minded people? Again, very, very broad question, Ashwin. You'll have to come up with more detail if you really want me to answer the questions. So, Shakti Thangwal, I have emailed to Backstage with Millionaires. No one replied. Shakti, if it was something relevant, if it was something worthwhile for us to reply, we would have already replied to that. If you really think that it was a mistake from our end to not reply to your email, please just send us an email. Just a follow-up email on the same reply, and I'll make sure that I reply to that. Ayush Katkam, how can I meet new people and create a good network of smart entrepreneurs? Ayush, if you really want to build a community, if you really want to build entrepreneurs network, I think it's for you to figure it out, because if anyone else knew, they would have already had the community. Thank you. Good answers I needed. Thank you very much, Vinayak. Your thoughts on privatization of banks in India? Again, Ashwin, I think it's more about startups and entrepreneurship, and banks privatization of banks is much more of a political cause, and I will refrain from commenting on that right now. Is cloud computing industry good for a new startup? Ghostwriter, certainly it is. What do you want to do in cloud computing? There is like literally thousands of things, thousands of different startups that you can do into that. So what is your idea of a cloud computing startup? Maybe just give me a little bit more detail, just like I keep asking every time. Hello, I'm starting a fashion startup clothing brand. Is it worth? Ronak, again, it is worth. It all only depends on what kind of clothes are you selling, what kind of market you're targeting, what are the kind of, how are you marketing yourself? A lot of these things, basically. I mean, everything is worth. You start anything, you do it with consistency, you do it with all your efforts. I'm pretty sure every single thing is worth doing. Every single thing can become successful. So, yeah, I think. What are the startups in India which a fourth year student after completion of last semester can go into if he wants to get into business than going into corporate sector? What are the startups in which? So Shwam, again, more than startups, I think you need to look at the sectors which excite you, the sectors which encourage you, which basically motivate you. If you think you are a coder, if you think you are, someone in mechanical field, if you think you are someone in, let's say, you are interested in education, you are interested in, electricals, basically it just depends on your interest, because I'm pretty sure there would be startups in every single sector, which are willing to take people, which are willing to take interns or full-time employees. The only thing which is like where you can really add value, because if you're looking for the first time, if you're looking to join a workforce for the first time, if you're looking for your first professional experience, I think you really need to look at an industry, or you need to look at a startup which can basically help you grow, or at the same time you can also help that startup grow, because first professional experience, if you are getting a chance to choose where you want to work, I think there is nothing better than that. So maybe just first be very sure on what sector, what are the kind of startups that you want to go into. Don't look at the startups which are hiring and just don't mass email them. If you have the leverage, make use of that leverage. Netram, where you should register your company? Are there any benefits of registering it out of India? So Netram, I think there are no direct benefits of registering any company out of India. One, if you have most of your operations outside India, then it is, it does make sense. If you have most of your payments coming out of India, then it makes sense. If you have your investors coming out of India, then only. If you have all of your business based in India, if you have your investors, or if you don't want to have investors, then it doesn't really make any sense to register out of India. Yeah. Okay, Others, first year BTech student in my college, there is an incubator. They are ready to invest in an innovative idea in return. They do not want the shares in the company. Can you explain what benefit for the college? So Others, I don't know how much are they investing, how much are they ready to invest, and what is the idea. But if they are really looking at that IP, if they are really looking at that potential in that startup, maybe they can just help they can just use your startup as a success story. If they really see the potential that okay, your startup could really do great, all they can do is they can simply just just like IIT, JW, and all these coaching centers do. The moment the results are out, all they do is they simply just start marketing that okay, these are the students from our coaching center. They made it to IIT or JW or NET, NEET or anything else. So that might be a case that they might just be looking to use your case as a success story. But again, just like I said, I don't know much detail about it. But if they are not asking for any shares, if they are not asking about any involvement, if they are only just giving you money just like that, then I think that might just be the only reason that they are. Podcast versus books, Nalayak number one. Okay, love that name. I think podcasts for me, because that's interactive. Books, I think for our generation, I mean, I'm sure there are still a lot of people who enjoy reading books. I'm sure there are like people even younger than me, they enjoy reading books. But for a lot of people, they really need something interactive. They really need something that they really do not need to make, put into efforts to kind of look at, or kind of gain knowledge. So podcasts for a lot of different people are the way to consume content and get motivated. Okay, there are. How can I start a startup based around financial services? Harish, very, very broad. Uh, okay, I'll just ignore that. How much would it cost to build my own data center? Ashwin, again, very broad question, because a data center, like how big of a data center, if you're just talking about a couple of PCs, you might even be able to do that in like a couple of lakh rupees. But if you're talking about a big data center, if you're talking about, what are the speeds, what are the kind of security, what are the operating system you're going to provide them, what are the kind of features you're going to provide them, because a lot of these things matter. A lot of these things, what are the specs that you're going to provide to your are you just going to outsource all of it? Are you just going to be a outsource company for some big company, or are you basically looking to get started with your own operations? Are you going to have your own team? There are actually a lot of these things which matter when you are starting a data center. So I think I'll just need a lot of these details to just give you a specific number that this is how much it might cost for you to build a data center. Do you think the time has come where startups are looking for skills rather than experience or degrees? Certainly, Baba Rohit. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of startups which do not even look at your degrees. And degrees are only, even for the bigger companies which look for your degrees, I think, for them it is just a filtration process, because a company like, let's say, Infosys, if they're hiring for 10 seats, if they're hiring for 10 spots, there would be like 1,000 people applying for that. So the only reason that they use your degree is just to filter out, so that if 1,000 people are applying, after that degree filtration, after that marks filtration, after that percentage filtration, there will only be 500 remaining. And after that 500, once they have the technical round and all of that, they basically reach out to those 50 people who they finally call for interview. So I think even the skills we have already, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know how many of people who are watching this video who are experienced in the corporate sector or startup sector, but after your first job, when you're switching, when you're looking for better opportunities, no one asks you how much you scored in your graduation, or what degree that you have. They only ask for the skills. Can you add value to my company? If yes, they will talk to you, or else they won't talk to you. So we are already, like, we are not going towards that direction. We have already moved in that direction where startups are looking for skills, rather than experience. I mean, experience might also be, experience and degree are two different things. Experience might also be something that a lot of people do take into consideration, because just like I said, just like degrees, that might also be a filtration, but skills are the most important thing. You can be certain on that. How are you, brother? Thank you, Kunal, for asking. I'm great. I hope you're doing great too. Lucas, have you pitched anyone yet and any success? I know, sensitive question. If you're talking about backstage with millionaires, no, we haven't pitched. But if you're talking about other startups that I was involved in, yes, I did pitch to a lot of investors, and I did get, I did get success once. I did raise one round of funding, and I hope that answers. Does investing 30 lakh in an MBA IIM worth it? Anshul, again, it depends on who are you as a person. It depends on what you think that value can be, because every single person is different, because every single person, there are some people who really like, or they really enjoy the whole academic process. They really enjoy how to basically get the bookish knowledge. And IIM is does not only give you the bookish knowledge, they give you connections, they basically give you the confidence, they basically prepare you for that corporate world. Like, if it is only about the books, if it is only about the educational content, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of online lectures from Harvard and Oxford online on their own website. You can simply just go for that, and you won't even have to pay anything. But IIM actually gives you much more than that degree, much more than that educational, uh, yeah, basically that education that you get from that. So before I basically go to next question, I just want to say that we are already at 8:35, and I'm still kind of okay, I'm almost good with the pace. So I'll only be considering questions which are sent to me by 8:45, because I kind of want to make sure that this live stream does not go more than an hour, because there have been times that this live stream has gone beyond 1.5 hours, and after, like, once it goes live on the channel, there are a lot of people watching, and it might not really make sense for those people. So I want to keep it short, I want to keep it under 1 hour. So if you haven't asked anything, if you have already asked, I'll get to that. But if you have not asked any question, please ask in the next 10 minutes, and I will be, just like I said, I'll be considering every single question which is sent to me in that time frame. Okay, how to prevent our startup from patent trolls? So, I think the best way to protect your startup from you're using that word troll. If that certainly means that people who are just trying to kind of waste your time, and they don't really have any merit to claim, or to basically challenge your patent. If that is the case, maybe just to have a proper legal team, basically just to have someone who understands the patent roles, also to have a legal team who understands your product. Basically, they understand the technicalities of your product, so that they do not have to run it by you every single time there is something legal issues. If you have not patented your product, just patent it. And also, there are times, like, if you're talking about, I don't know if you're talking about your product or if you're talking about your name, but there are actually a lot of categories in which you have to patent your product and your name. So make sure that every single category, make sure every single section of that patent laws in wherever you are staying, you access, or you basically check each one of them, and you are basically sorted on that front. And just like I said, you really need to have a proper lawyer, or proper legal team which understand patent laws as well as what you are working on. So both of these things are very important. You might really talk to some really great lawyer, but they might not really understand the world of technology, or the world of electronics, or whatever you're building. So you really need to look at, or maybe work with someone who understands both of these things, so that you get the best legal knowledge possible. Did India have their own GFEA or GAFA or BATX? I have no clue what that is. Sil 22 Roch. Maybe if you can just give me a little bit more detail. How to market your first product? Ojesh. So I think how to market your first product, again, very, very broad, because every single product has a different market. Every single product has a different customer base. Every single product has a different the target base. So based on who your customers are, based on what your market is, you need to come up with your own strategy. And yeah, if you can just tell me what your product is, if you can just tell me what your market size is, or what your market is, I might be able to give you more tips on that. But if you're just asking me like a very broad, very generalized marketing tip, that might not really be a possibility. What are the best online tools and books to know everything about entrepreneurship? Or just, we actually have a small 47-second video on our channel from Ankur Variko, and he was suggesting last week that what are the books for entrepreneurship to actually read, and to basically follow if you are a first-time entrepreneur, or even if you're not a first-time entrepreneur. Those are the books that you really need to read. Please go back to our channel, watch that video, and I hope that'll be beneficial for you. Khalid, advice on hyperlocal delivery startup. Again, very, very broad, Khalid. You really need to come up with a little bit more detail. Shahar's ultraviolet Q&A might be going live soon. Actually, we are done editing. I'm not really sure. I don't have a deadline for that. I don't know when it's going to go live, but we are almost done with the editing, and it should be going live in the next couple of days max. Is it easy to raise funding during ideation stage with no real MVP if the idea is good enough for a tech startup? Nitram, it again completely depends on who you are as an entrepreneur, what are the kind of experience that you have. Are there investors, like if you have family and friends, or there are investors, do you have enough potential or skills or resources, or whatever you want to call it, to convince those investors to invest in your company on the idea? So that is one thing that you need to figure out yourself, because if you can build an MVP, if you can take an MVP to an investor, what is stopping you? Like, why would you want to, or maybe want to risk a rejection, or basically want to take a rejection just because you were feeling lazy, or you just wanted to wait for those fundings to come before you could build MVP if you had all the resources. If you don't have resources, then it's a different thing. But if you have the resources, if you think you can build an MVP before reaching out to the investors, what is stopping you? I think you might just need to go and build that. Okay, Japrasulveer Singh. Wow, that's a great name. What is the future of entrepreneurship in India? Please give a very honest and critical answer. Uh, okay, so I'll just call you JS because your name is way too complicated for me to pronounce. So I think the future of entrepreneurship in India, because now it's finally the time that we have started to basically encourage entrepreneurship. Now is finally the time we have finally started to kind of recognize that entrepreneurship and basically taking risk might be a good a good career point, or basically just starting up on your own, or doing anything on your own. So now is the time, just like I keep saying, that the governments of different states, the central government, are finally talking about entrepreneurship. They're finally talking about startups. Now is the time that we finally know that every single person in India, or almost like the majority of India, has a mobile phone connected with internet. Now is the finally the time that we know that, okay, the COVID has certainly given us way more options for these startups to come up. So I think this is the best time for entrepreneurs, or for entrepreneurship. This is the best time to find solutions, for let's say, just to give people ways to enjoy their time when they are home, just to give them maybe some relaxation kind of thing, just to make because I think this is the time that we are most insecure. This is the time that we are least motivated in our lives. This is the time that we basically are least motivated to do anything, like we are in our comfort zones. So this is the time that if you really think you can be motivated, if you think you can do really something, because after a couple of years, or after 5 years, we will be talking about this time, or we will be talking about our lives as pre-COVID and post-COVID. So there are a lot of things which are going to change after COVID is completely gone. There are a lot of new opportunities which have already come, which are coming, or which will be coming. So I think that might just be the honest and critical answer that you're looking for. That there are actually hundreds and thousands of opportunities that are there, that are going to be created in the coming years, and this is the perfect time for starting up, because yeah, I mean, there's nothing which can go bad. All that can happen is you can just go in positive direction from here. Vishwajit, in which way I can find team for my startup, or at least what tools that I can help me. If you're looking for a team, Vishwajit, I think the best place to find that are the startup listing platforms, just like Angel.co, Let's Venture, and the Facebook communities. You might also need to look at people around you, people who have been either your classmates, references from people, or online communities or social networks. So I think the best thing which really works when you are hiring your first employees, when you are hiring your first team, is the references. So try asking for references from your own people, from the people around you. That will be the best thing, because when you are starting up, you would want to work with the people who you really know, or the people that someone can vouch for. So I think that will be the best thing for you to begin with. But if you cannot, then just go to these websites like Quicker and Naukri, and even not, there are a lot of these startup events. There are actually a lot of these conferences where people actually look at joining startups. And just like I said in the previous question, now is the time that people have finally started to look at startups, or basically to consider startups to start their careers, or even to work in these startups. So this might just be the best time for you to build your team. Intellectual, in your thinking, is our government supporting startups or not? Well, uh, for sure. I mean, if it is just like you asking me, my personal opinion, I certainly think that yes, the government is supporting, and not only the central government, every single state government is supporting the startups. Because before this government, before I think 22nd of January 2016 or 2015, whichever, I think 2016, no government spoke about startup policy. This government finally brought startup policy, and after that, all these state governments, there are actually some state governments really doing great: Rajasthan, Telangana, Karnataka, Kerala. A lot of these governments are finally doing great for the startup ecosystem in their own states. So I won't really only talk about the central government. Every single state government, I think, is competing with other state governments to finally build that startup ecosystem in that. And yeah, I think that might just be a good thing for us entrepreneurs, and for the people who want to start in the coming days. How to prevent our okay, Om, I think I have answered your question. That was a repetitive question. Great effort, brother. Keep doing such informative session. One feedback instead of live session. Collect all the questions from everyone. Pick a few questions and then answer them. Uh, yes, Babarod, I think that might just be a good point. But the reason that I really want to do it is because of that live interaction feature, because that kind of does create a lot of value for me as well as for people who are interacting, because I can certainly answer much more questions in this form rather than the video that you suggested. But certainly, like, I will take your advice and we might just think about doing that sort of Q&A videos as well with either me or to get some more entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for your kind words and thank you very much for your advice. I will certainly consider that. Lucas, why India don't have high-tech startups? Most of the Indian startups are just using advantage of high Indian population, but not actually developing high-level tech like US, flying cars and stuff. Lucas, again, just like I said, I think your information is outdated. There are a lot of Indian startups in SaaS. There are a lot of now that we can also talk about Indian hardware startups, which are basically considering of which basically building for the world. So I think there are a lot of these startups that you might not really know right now, or you might not really be aware of. But India is certainly not the India that it was 5 years ago in terms of startups. Like, we saw more than 15 or 17 unicorns just in last year. Last year was considered to be the one of the most challenging years for literally the whole mankind or even the startup world. But even in that, Indian startup ecosystem, so at least 15, 18 or whatever that correct number is, unicorns in 2020. So yes, I think I won't really agree with what you just said. Ghost Rider, can Indian EV startups compete with Tesla? Well, I think if you're talking about India, the thing that you really need to answer is, can Tesla compete with Indian EV startups? Because I'm pretty sure, like, the kind of memes that we see, the kind of news that we see, Tesla might not really be successful in India if they do not really adapt to Indian roads, Indian technology, and Indian driving behavior. So I think you need to reverse your question. Can Tesla compete with Indian EVs? So, and I hope you will get your answer. Plus, how can India control brain drain? Lucas, I think that's a complicated thing for me to answer, because India certainly needs to provide much more opportunities, much bigger opportunities, and I think a level playing field for people. And yeah, I think that's one thing that I'm not really, I think, qualified enough to answer. Bishal, what kind of skills do we need to work on a startup? Bishal, I think the skills that you need is what kind of startups that you really want to build. If you want to build a tech startup, if you want to build a let's say software startup, a SaaS startup, or whatever the kind of startups, all you need to do is, if you're talking about the general skills, you certainly need to be great with people. You certainly need to be like better with your communication skills. You basically need to be someone who can just make other people understand of what you're working on, what you want to work on. And apart from that, I think there's just the people management skills, and just know your own domain, whatever you want to work on or whatever you are working on. And I hope that answers your question. Netram, does experience in corporate job help in starting a startup, or can you do without it as well? Netram, experience in corporate job certainly helps, just like I keep saying about a lot of different questions. It certainly depends on different people, like who you are as a person. You might just feel great about starting a startup after your corporate job. Because once you're out of college, you have a different level of energy, you have a different kind of energy. You just want to do something, you just kind of want to channel that energy into something, and starting up might just be one of the best ideas. For some people, once they're out of college, they just want to get into corporate world because they think that they still need some polishing. They think that they still need some sort of molding, and only after that they can get into the startup world, or they can actually do something on their own. So I think it's much of a very personal choice, and I have seen a lot of people who started right in college and got successful. I've seen a lot of people who started right after college, got successful. I've seen people who worked in corporate jobs for like 2 3 5 years, they've got successful. I've also seen people who worked like 20 years 25 years in a corporate scene, and then they started and they got successful. So I think it's not a general thing for me to answer that you need to be in corporate world or not. I think it's much more on what you really feel comfortable with. Nancy, it's just amazing to see your live session. Please come live more often. Thank you for your kind words, but certainly, like, coming live more often is right now not a possibility. but I think someone had just suggested me to do, take some of these questions and to make a different video, and that is something I might just consider. Or we were actually also considering, me, Caleb, and Varun met today, and we were just having some sort of discussions, and we also thought about doing a live stream on Instagram. I don't know what situation of that is going to be, like, what format is it going to be, who is going to do that, but that might be another chance for, all of you, for all the people who are associated with this channel to kind of interact with us. And obviously, like, Instagram might just be a little bit more interactive because I can talk to someone or Caleb can talk to someone face to face. So we haven't still, kind of finalized that, but once we do, you will certainly know about that. Uru, organic farming and planting startup, what about it? Viral nut. Is it okay to take losses in beginning? Viral nut, yeah, it is perfectly fine. Like, if you are just experimenting, if you think you have resources, if you have capabilities to take these losses, if you think that you can certainly, afford to lose some money just for your experience and you for experiment, who is stopping? Like, there are certainly, like, these $1 billion and $1 million startups are just doing that. They're simply just experimenting with investors' money, and they might, they just get away with that. So yeah, I mean, it's again just like I said, whose money are you investing? Is it your own? No, you don't have to ask anyone. If you are investing the money of your investors, then maybe you might just need to ask them. But it is completely okay to take losses if you think, if you have planned for a better future and a profitable future. 19. Wow. Guide me on creating apps and payment gateways, sir. How do I guide you on creating apps and payment gateway? I think just Google it, and you might just find, like, I have certainly lost touch with coding way back in my past, so might not be the best person to guide you on that. Mutuf, sir, I was 15-year-old guy. How can I start my passion entrepreneurship? Mutuf, so again, if you are 15, I think, if you don't know how to start with entrepreneurship, maybe just the best thing would be to just, get some more knowledge, get some more talk, maybe study some more about the sector, some more about your passion, what you really want to do, what are the things that you really think you can change in this world, what are the problems that you can solve for this world, and along the way, you will find your way. You don't have to be in rush that, okay, I'm 15 and I need to start up, before turning 16 or before turning 17 or whatever, that you have targets. Those might just be unrealistic targets. Just take your life slow, just keep studying, keep reading about things, keep learning about things. You will find your way on that. Okay. Punarnava. Okay. How high nowadays we see a lot of people who are doing engineering first and then get into entrepreneurship. If one wants to become an entrepreneur, what do you prefer, engineering or an MBA? So Punarnava, I think one that you asked, engineering or an MBA. So more, both of are completely different. Both of are completely different degrees. Like, one is a bachelor degree and one is a master's degree. So you can even do both. You can even go for engineering and then you can go for an MBA, and that might just not. But just like I said, for a lot of people, it is like, it completely depends on what kind of person you are. Engineering certainly gives you a lot of life lessons. Engineering, certainly those 4 years, you meet a lot of people, you kind of study a lot of different things, and that might just be your first college degree. So that does give you a different kind of experience. But once you are in MBA, that is not your first experience, first college experience. So MBA is basically more or less about the corporate world. It is more or less about how these books basically define startups, entrepreneurship, or the corporate world. So engineering and MBA are completely different, just like I said. So who you are as a person, maybe just do pros and cons of both of these things. But just like I said, there is no conflict between engineering and MBA. If you are that confused, maybe just go for both. What is the opinion on the AICTE rule impact on students? Because a lot of students are worried because of irrelevant studies they took for starting up. Shakti, I don't know, like, why it should be worrying for people who took irrelevant, like, the new rule of AICTE, if you're talking about maths and physics being not mandatory for people to study engineering. So it hasn't taken anyone's right to not study engineering. Like, it hasn't said that people who have not studied this will not be able to get into engineering. It has just given more students an opportunity to study engineering. Like it has just told people that even if you have studied anything between entrepreneurship, business studies, or I think accountancy, there are a lot of these. I do not really know the entire list of the subjects, but it is just giving more people to get into engineering. So I think for people who were either already in engineering or people who are already studying maths and physics, they are not losing anything. It's just that more people are gaining something. So I don't really see why people should have an issue with that. If I'm missing something, please just correct me and just send me something. But I don't really see like why should people really have an issue with that new rule. Uru, I want to change how people guys and sell veggies and plants. Suggestion, please. Uru, please a little bit more. What do I do? Does MSME help? Very, very broad and very vague. I will just be skipping that. Made India, we develop mobile game and it's doing great. Can we develop mobile game and it's doing great? Great, okay. We start a new company and do solo development. Is there any scope in game market in India? Made in India, I think there is a lot of scope in Indian market, and the company that raised funds just last, or I think the company which got an investment from a Swedish studio. It was in our last week's news video. I am not really kind of not remembering the name, but that company gives the platform to a lot of these game studios or these game developers to basically host your games on that. So I think there is certainly, like, if you can compete with the big the likes of these big studios, if you really think that you have the skill set to build the game for the world, there is certainly no stopping. There are a lot of these companies which will give you platform and exposure. There are a lot of these companies, and even if you don't want to do that, Google Play Store is just open for everyone. And just like I think just the first few installs and the first few ratings, and Google also supports the new, or even Apple, or even there are a lot of these things. So if you really think that you can create for the world, if you really think that you have the skill set to make it as competitive, as creative, and as technically advanced as the other companies, I don't really see why you should not start as a solo developer and list your own games or sell your own games. Once 53 people watching, everyone please hit the like button as well. Yes, please, everyone please do that. Now I have 54 people watching. So Sharat, I'm not a technical guy, but I've wanted to. Does internet has advanced resources? Certainly, internet does have advanced resources. I know a couple of people who are right now learning programming, data science, and basically the machine learning, the advanced part of it. And internet has enough resources, and I think much more than enough resources. So yes, I mean, I hope that answers your question. I had just asked a question about college and incubator, their benefits. They're ready to invest up to 10 lakh rupees. Okay, should I pitch my idea and start to work in the college or wait after 1 year of? So Adarsh, yeah, just like I keep saying, if you think that 10 lakh rupees is going to be beneficial for you, if you really think that that whatever different thing, like, because the college incubation or any incubation center does not only provide you funds, they also provide you guidance, they also provide you connections to investors and any of the companies. They basically, like, incubation or acceleration programs, or even investors for that fact, it is much more than the money that is there. So just look at, just maybe talk to the authorities in that incubation center. Just talk to the person or the professor who's basically heading that incubation center, and just discuss about your ideas, discuss about your startup, and just tell them that what are the kind of benefits that they can give you, what are the kind of things that you will get if you want to be a part of that, that ecosystem or that incubation center. And I think you will be the person who will be able to take a better decision based on that. Okay, this is the cutoff time. So I think I will maybe take a couple more questions because we still have a few minutes. I think 5 minutes before it is 9 o'clock, and I started at 8:10 today. So I might even go 5 or 10. Just like I said, I just want to keep it below 1 hour. So but I might still take a few questions. But guys, please do not send any more questions because I'll feel bad for skipping that. But I will not be extending my live for more than an hour in any situation. Please post more community post. Punarnava, certainly. I think that's one thing which a lot of people have told us. We will We are certainly still working on that. We are right now working on how we can really increase the output, how we can really increase the way that the kind of content, or the kind of more than the content, what are the things that we can do, be it on us or on our social media platforms, be it on our Instagram, or be it on the community as well. So I think that is another suggestion. Thank you for that, and I will certainly take that and see what's the best I can do, or we as a team can do. Can I use my personal account for my startup, Nikhil? You can certainly do that. What can we do in space tech, Uru? Uh, Sejan Sayan Jacob. Okay, I'm a BTech student, doesn't have experience in startup. How can I find a mentor and gain practical experience? So, Sayan, I think the first thing that you need to figure out is, why do you need a mentor? What are the things that, let's say you have a mentor, what are the things that you will ask him? What are the things that a mentor can change in your life, or can change in your startup journey? Once you have that, see that if you can really find the answers of those questions yourself on YouTube, on Google, or anything else. If you think you cannot, then maybe select the person that, okay, this person might be the best. Either it might be your college professor, it might be someone that from your relatives, someone in your family, someone around you, or you might even find someone who is, let's say, working on building something. So before trying to find a mentor, try to figure out, why do you really need a mentor, and who could be the best person to or to get that. So I think it's a step by step process, and you will have your answer. Nikhil, I hope I have taken your yes. Come to Discord. Yes, okay, let's do that. I'll be on Discord for a while after this live chat is over, and yeah, I can maybe talk to a few of you there. Ashok Bhya, can we become a CEO of a company after getting into commerce field, and how? Ashok Bhya, I think CEO. Yeah, you can certainly become. You just need to start a business, and you are CEO of your own startup or your business. How to do a fintech startup? Skills need to be in an embedded system. Mutuf, as a 15-year-old guy, I have more ideas. Where do I tell those ideas to whom? Like, why do you think anyone would be interested in your ideas? Let me just be a little bit more clear and blunt. Because ideas in ideation stage do not have any value of that. The only value they have is once they have been executed, once there is a product, once there is a service, when there is actually a startup which is working on something. So that is the only place where an idea has any value. If you just talk about idea, you can simply just Google idea for a startup, and you'll find thousands of them. Idea in an idea stage does not have any value after that. Sorry to just disappoint you with that. How can someone acquire first few customers for a SaaS business? Manoj, just reach out to the people who you think are your potential customers. Just reach out to the people who you think might use your product. Just give them early access. Just give them free access. Maybe just ask for their feedback, and or maybe just try to reach out to your competitors and their users, and maybe just ask what are the kind of issues that they are facing in their startups, or in their products, or whatever SaaS platform that they're using. Try to fix that. Reach out to those people again, and ask them to use your product and give them feedback, and just tell them that, okay, I can give you an early bird access for that, for maybe 1 year for free, or 6 months for free, or maybe at a 50% discount. You just need to incentivize that, and you can, I mean, more than me, I think you are the one who knows who is going to be your potential audience. So I think, guys, I'll take maybe 3 more questions. How do we get in touch with experts in any field, for example, fintech, that can help with the concept and help us see an opportunity? Ashish, more than you, I think, just like I keep saying, you need to figure out, you need to think for that investors or that mentors perspective or point of view. Why do you think they will give you time? Why do you think that they will be interested in talking to you? I know you will get some knowledge out of them, but why will anyone just want to give you any time? Either you're adding some value out of that, or you're working on building something which they might use, or whatever. Just, I think first you need to figure that out. I think first you need to really figure out, like, what is the value that you are creating for that particular person that you want to talk to. And once you have that figured out, just write an email to whoever you are seeking, and if your email is catchy enough, I'm pretty sure they will reach out to you. Shaumadeep, can you talk about the potential of EVs in India? I already have a few designs for 3-wheelers, 2 differential motors, How do I approach investors about it? So I think, Soumyadeep, more than that, first you really need to approach someone, or maybe you have to have a prototype, maybe you have to have an MVP, and if you think that's too much, maybe just reach out to some investors which are, no, sorry, some startups which are already working in that space. Maybe just, take some feedback from them, just work on something. I mean, just more than an idea, more than a design, I think you really need to have something on ground, something which is built, and something which can really, strengthen your case when you're talking to these startups or the investors. Okay, guys, I think I am done. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I really hope this was worth for a lot of you. I mean, I've really seen this kind of turnaround after a few weeks. So thank you very much, whoever turned out for this. Whoever turned up for this. Just like I keep saying, Friday evening is not really the best time for people to talk about entrepreneurship and to talk about. Ashwin is asking what is my age. Ashwin, what do you think? What is my age? I again, okay, it's 25. I don't have anything to hide. But just like I said. Thank you for joining in, and we will meet you again next week. I will meet you again. We will meet you tomorrow with the news video, and I will meet you next week, Friday at 8 o'clock with with a new live session. And till then, have a good weekend, have a good night, and that's it. Thank you very much for coming today.